Hey guys. So we have a new third wave water representative here. I'll let him introduce himself.
I am Taylor. Charles is unable to be here today, so I am filling in and hope to answer, the same questions.
I love this conversation. Mutt Sauce is based in Dayton, and we are a retail product. It's a tomato-based sauce that you can use on every meal. But I'm here with Taylor to talk about what happens when you've outgrown your home production. Where do you go? What do you do? So we'll start by talking about the footprint that we both have as Mutt Sauce and Third Wave Water. Taylor, where are you distributed at right now?
Yeah, so right now our main distribution hub is out of Cedarville. We have I have a commercial building there that we've slowly grown into, but from there we distribute to our online store, which goes internationally to B2C and B2B, and then we send out to Amazon US, Canada, UK, Australia, and then they do the distribution for the product from there.
So they're international. Their footprint is already international. Mutt Sauce is more on the national side. We started out, I was selling it out of the back of my Honda, actually. And we were manufactured by an Amish family in Chillicothe, Ohio. That was our first production. It was always co-packaged, and for anybody who's going into consumer packaged good, that's where you contract with someone to manufacture your product. So we've always been a co-packaged product. We are in retail stores, so locally we're in Dots Market, we're in Jungle Gyms, regional contracts. We also have a contract with Kroger. During the pandemic, we started selling online too, Amazon, and we have a Shopify.com store at muttsauce.com. Recently this summer, we were on QVC. So that is the whole footprint of Mutt Sauce. So, Taylor, tell us about Third Wave Water. What exactly is the product?
Yeah, so we're kind of lucky because we're not technically a food, but we are food and do a lot of the same like food safety plan stuff. Mm-hmm. But we're more of a food additive or a mineral supplement here in the U.S. And our product, it's basically a mineral that you add, so people have never seen it. It's a mineral, a mixture of minerals you add to a gallon of distilled water. You then shake that up and then brew your coffee with it. So we only have 5 ingredients that get mixed into different ratios and then put into little sticks that then get packaged into boxes. So in terms of feasibility of doing something yourself and not going with a co-packer, it was a lot easier for us to go down the route of packaging it ourselves, just because we didn't have that kind of food safety health issues, or where you need a large bottling line, or the cost of entry can get really expensive for that equipment.
Okay, so we have some questions, and we're going to try to stick to it. As you can see, there's a lot that we can cover. There's a lot of ground that we can cover because of how vast our distribution is. The first question was, how do you know that you've outgrown your home production space? So how did you know that you'd outgrown your first space?
So we had like multiple baby steps, and I would suggest that anyone who's thinking about making steps, and those steps can get really expensive, start thinking outside the box and how you can kind of make little micro steps along the way, and don't get kind of pigeonholed or stuck in your head of like, I have to do this or one option or a second option. So we started off with really a type of manufacturing that wasn't viable or profitable for the future. So we were mixing minerals in Ziploc bags and measuring them out on scales by hand. And it would take us, it was not sustainable, but it was for us to kind of figure out if the market was there. So it was kind of that minimum viable product. We went from there to, actually we were using gunpowder weighing scales that would dose out for people that reload ammunition.
Wow.
So we had about 10 of those, and we would dose the minerals with that, which got us a little bit of speed, but was still, not profitable. And it wasn't till about 4 months after we launched and we did a Kickstarter that we actually went to a vertical form fill stick packaging machine for that level of production. But yeah, so we kind of break down our manufacturing, our production, because in the end, it's not just one element. You have multiple elements, from sourcing to receiving to mixing it all together to for us to packaging it to putting them in boxes, shipping it out. So you really have to think holistically about your entire production from incoming to outgoing, because you might find that, oh, I'm actually bottlenecked somewhere else and not in the production side. So really getting that figured out.
One note that I did get from Charles, he said you started in a 15 by 15 foot room.
Yeah, so I used to own an ice cream shop, and it was the front was a 15 by 15. It felt bigger, but it was already like kind of FDA approved food packaging space. So we had that going for us. But yeah, so it was. But in that we had air compressors and vacuum systems and our machinery going, and it was loud. You couldn't talk. You couldn't really think. And so that's where we started. And we did the shipping out of there. So it was all of it, everything out of that. So yeah, that's where we started. And then we kind of just started slowly expanding and moving. Okay, we need a little office. And okay, now we need a bigger office, and we need a bigger storage area. Now we need,
So as you needed capabilities, you scaled to meet that capability gap that you had.
Yeah, so we tried to break down, like, even our production into, okay, you have shipping, logistics, you have the actually making the sticks, you have packaging the sticks, you have the you need enough room for all your materials together. So once you start kind of in your head envision, okay, if we were to sell $1 million, $10 million worth of stuff, right? Okay, and if we only wanted to order materials, maybe once a month or once every 2 months, okay, now how much stuff would that be compared to what we have now? How many people would that take compared to what we have now? And then you can kind of start building backwards to kind of figuring out what your current space can handle.
There's a lot of plan backwards, I think, with entrepreneurs, and you have to look forward and see what can you afford, what is the maximum return on investment that you can get out of where you're at right now. So I encourage food entrepreneurs to look at your space. You might be cooking at home, but you can do remarkable things at home. It's just how you utilize that space. For Mutt sauce, the reason why we started out as a co-packaged product is because I was serving on active duty in the military. So that was my #1 priority by contract and by, I love to serve. But I knew that something had to happen with the recipe that my grandfather had given me. So it was a piece of paper. So people wonder, how did it start? It was a piece of paper my grandfather gave me that he had made this recipe for an all-purpose sauce in 1956. I had no instructions. So I reached out to SCORE, which is an organization that provides free mentorship. There is a chapter here in Dayton if you want to talk to them. But I sat down with them and I said, my restriction is my time. I am a one-man band right now, but I want to see this happen. I would love to see this on a shelf. It doesn't matter if it's Kroger or whatever it is. I would just love to make a few bottles for my friends and family, and that's when they said, you need to start with the foundation. Know what it is that you want to produce for people, and you need to think 3 or 4 steps ahead. My mentors were telling me, you need to think about Kroger. I was just thinking about a couple bottles. So you have to surround yourself with people who will push you a little bit, but you also have to be prepared to do a lot of planning. Do that upfront work of the cost of goods sold to make your product. How much does it cost to ship your product? How much does it cost to label your product? What are your ingredient costs? There are a lot of really talented food businesses out here, and it breaks my heart when I do the cost analysis and I find out that you're a food charity. every single cupcake and cookie you sell, you are giving away money because you haven't priced your product correctly. So you haven't even started distributing your product and you're already losing money. So we're gonna go to the next question. I just want you to think about that. How do you know when you need a third party in your manufacturing and logistics process?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would add to that, if you haven't gotten good with Excel yet, take a class and figure that out, because it's lovely to be able to go back to that after you put in that effort, and then it makes pricing and cost of goods sold easier. So how you know when to change is, I would challenge you to think of that before that happens, because you don't want to get stuck in this position to where you have to make quick decisions and you have to act fast, because that always costs more. So really start to put those kind of lines in the sand to when you're going to need to grow or grow one aspect, or even think about outside of the box options. We've talked about, okay, what if we just have one product line co-packed? What if we just have the sticks co-packed and then we're packaging them? What is, if we were to break it up, instead of just thinking of it, in binary, like either we make it or somebody else makes it, what are all the different ways that it might work the other way around? And then even like, okay, what happens if you are working at home and there's a fire at your house, or something that you can't make stuff at home? What are your kind of contingency plans to keep your doors open, to keep products on the shelf if something happens to you? Because in the end, your customers, you don't really care. I mean, some might, but in the end, you have to keep having product. So, so really think about those things beforehand, and then start to really think, okay, how much farther can I go? Instead of, you don't want to get stuck in the kind of negative, if I just had this new space, I would make so much more money, because in the end, it doesn't work out that way. And so really just challenge yourself, like, okay, can I push myself more? Can I rearrange stuff? Can I increase the kind of production efficiency of my business now with what I have and make it work? Because those skills will be super valuable even if you do expand.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you, how did you decide to use Amazon? How did you make the decision that this is going to be an Amazon product?
Because we were on Shark Tank, and so
you guys know that?
Which was kind of a neat thing.
They got a Shark Tank deal.
So we put our product on Amazon for us to ship to people, and after Shark Tank aired, we sold I think like $50,000 in one day, and so from that, they actually shut down our account for 45 days because we exceeded the sales quota for our account, because they wanted to make sure we were legit. So I guess that happened, and then we just never looked back. Our product also fit well with Amazon in terms of packaging size, the category. So when you start looking at fees, it's actually more profitable for us to sell one package of third wave water on Amazon than for us to ship it from our own location. Now, if they go up to multiple products, that is not the case, but we're kind of in a neat category. And then we actually resized our boxes. So again, spreadsheets are helpful. So diving through Amazon's pricing, we found if we had made our box 0.2 inches thinner, it would save us 75 cents per package. So we added basically a special SKU just for Amazon, and that's a lot of money. So.
That is a lot of money. That's amazing, though, right? Look at the cost-benefit analysis that you did, though. All the work up front that you did on the materials, the packaging, to make sure that this worked out for the company. So we just got back on Amazon, had a similar experience where we got shut down for about 6 months. We went on Yahoo and did an interview on Yahoo Business, and I didn't think twice about it, and then the account exploded, and we're sitting there in the garage like, oh my God, what do we do? Ours was trying to fulfill them fast enough because they had approved us for Prime, which means all these orders have to be shipped out in 48 hours. So be mindful of that. Be mindful of the customers that you're serving. Today's customers, they like convenient, they like fast. Basically, the Amazon mantra doesn't matter really what the platform is. They want you to be able to deliver it quickly, and they don't like having any of your packages messed up when it arrives. So some things that I wanted to give you for consideration when you're trying to consider third-party bottling manufacturing, you're going to have to take meetings. You're going to have to shop around a little bit because it is relationship-based. Everyone that you work with, your internal team, and then when you start bringing in third parties, this is building relationships. You want to stay, I like to stay with my manufacturer for at least a few years. And right now, the one that I'm with, I'm growing into this manufacturer, so I'm not even the biggest client that this manufacturer has. What that allows me to do is to see how large-scale food packaging manufacturing is. So I'm learning from them at the same time that they're helping me learn these growth strategies, scaling, with the comparison to people like, was the chocolate packaging? Nope. It starts with an E. I'll think about it. Esther Price. Got it. There you go. So you're thinking like Esther Price level, you know, a couple years ahead of time. One thing that's really important too is legal implications of bottling, manufacturing, doing any sort of third-party anything. You need to have certain documents pretty locked up tight. Some of you have grandma or grandpa's secret recipe, and you're wondering, I've heard this phrase from people, oh, all I have to do is trademark or copyright the recipe. You can't do that. There's no such thing as copywriting or trademarking a recipe. The only thing that you can do is you can trademark your logo or a phrase to go with your brand, or you can do trade secret agreements. So when you start trying to add to your team, that legal aspect needs to be a person on your team. And you need to have those documents. You need to have your own NDA, non-disclosure, and your manufacturer needs to have their NDA as well if they're going to be making your product. That's how you know that you're both going to stay in line and they're not going to be making your product on the side. Now, I did speak with Charles about what happens when you go international, because sometimes when you go internationally, you don't get as much control over what happens in that warehouse. You're not there. But locally, yeah, you can be there and talk to them and foster that relationship. Check yourself. Check your ability to scale this thing. It really has to do with your mindset and your heart and your determination to make it happen. My mentor said we move at the speed of determination. I asked him, what is that? He said, however determined you are to make this happen is how fast this is actually going to happen. I'm not here to tell you how fast to do it. I'm not going to be on you every day, because if you don't want it, what are we doing? You know, it's going to fail if you don't really want it. And that means working as hard as that person who doesn't even know you, but they're working twice as hard. They wake up every day saying, I know that person is there, and mine's going to be first to market, or mine's going to be on Amazon before theirs is. So keep that in mind. And now we get to our next question, which is third-party logistics. We kind of talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, so third-party logistics are basically you shipping bulk products all around the country, and then they distribute them depending on, you know, this would be, you know, if you're selling on, so we have a Shopify site too. So someone could go to our website and they could buy on Shopify, and we could ship it out to them. Or there's apps that connect to it. So if they are within 300 miles of a warehouse that's in Southern California, they would automatically get routed and shipped through there instead of shipping from Ohio. So what that can allow you to do is save money on shipping costs and also time. So if you do enough e-commerce business, you can actually save money by going with a 3PL. There are some kind of break-even analysis stuff you have to do. We use ShipStation, and we could download all of our shipments and then break them into zones. There's like 9 or 10 USPS zones. We use USPS. And then you can kind of start charting out those prices. We're kind of right at that point where we could go. There's been a lot of horror stories that I've read from other companies who have gone with a 3PL and things go bad. And so in the end, again, if your customer has a bad experience, you can't really go and blame somebody else for that. So we're just not at the point yet where we are going with a 3PL. Now, in a sense, we kind of are already because we use Amazon or FBA, Fulfilled by Amazon. So when we ship to Amazon, they ship out to all the different warehouses, and then people can get Amazon Prime shipped right to them, get the product the next day. So a part of that is a 3PL. So if we were doing, say, all of our sales just on Shopify and we didn't have Amazon, we might be, much more seriously looking at going with a 3PL. But I would say it's just like any other business relationship. Don't go just off of price. Find other companies that have had experiences. If you go on there's some private Facebook groups of e-commerce businesses, and they will be happy to tell you about either the terrible experiences or, hey, this vendor is fantastic, we love them. And we found a lot of those really good vendors. They're really good because they don't spend all their time marketing their company. So the companies that you find when you Google, it seems like a lot of them might put most of their business brains into marketing and maybe not as much into, taking care of their customers. So yeah, it's one of those you really have to be prepared. Be prepared to say, okay, we're going to pull the plug if things go bad. Maybe test it. But yeah, again, it's something you need to plan out. So when you get to that point, you're not making rash decisions, sending thousands of dollars in product all over the place.
Yes, and on that point, for those of you who want to go into grocery distribution, that relationship with your distributor is key. And you need to ask them what their services are, because there are some who also do a little bit of merchandising, but read the fine print, because some are just distributors, meaning they will drop your product off at the back door, and that is it, okay? So you have to keep these things in mind of what it means to give someone a great customer experience, not only online, but in a grocery store. It's much more than just getting on the shelf. It is being attractive on the shelf. It is having your product available on the shelf. And I'll be transparent. I'm going through a time where I'm transitioning my distributors for Mutt sauce. We're actually hiring a new team. That's a relationship that we're building right now. But I needed more merchandising. We have 56 stores right now, and that's important. You're in little towns like Piqua, okay? Who knows about Mutt sauce in Piqua? You got to be doing some heavy marketing and advertising to reach these people. But that merchandising team are the boots on the ground, to use a military term, that are making sure that these people know what Mutt sauce is in Piqua. And on third-party logistics, it's really important to keep doing that math. Don't get complacent about your cost of goods sold, because things change. Packaging prices change, shipping prices change, so you need to be constantly refreshing that price sheet. I remember having to sit down, I think it took 6 months. So when people saw that I went on QVC, they didn't realize it was 6 months of just working the price sheet to make sure that I walked away from that with, money. Because you have the contract that you have to fulfill with them. It was about 19 pallets that we shipped out after a 10-minute interview. You had 48 hours to ship out 19 pallets. Shout out to Debria, she was there. She saw it. I had anybody come help me get these pallets out. And it's a big team effort, and there's a lot behind the scenes that you have to do. You have to have boxes shipped in. So we had boxes shipped in from different locations. You had the sauce coming in from a different location. You had the labor team coming in to put the boxes together, because they come flat packed. They're not already made. It was specially made for QVC, so you have to think about that. Like, what do you do with surplus? What do you do if you don't sell it all? What do you do for warehousing? So consider all these things. There's a lot of aspects into going into Shark Tank or QVC or GMA opportunity. It's not just, okay, you do the interview and then you got some time to ship stuff out. It was almost a year of prep for a 10-minute interview. Okay.
Yeah, we had a story happen kind of, and you can never really take your eye off the ball either. Earlier this year, we realized that Amazon had remeasured one of our boxes and had adjusted the fee that they charge us. And I didn't pay attention to it, and I wasn't paying attention to it. And I went back and looked, and we got charged $19,000 over 8 months. And I submitted for a refund, and we got $4,000 of that back. After that, we found a company that's like $30 a month that sends us an email anytime anything changes on our Amazon account now. But it's one of those that, like, hey, I wasn't paying attention, and like that adds up. And you think you have something set, and you have to keep looking at those metrics, and it just it just you having those things written down and being able to go back and look and constantly just checking in on things.
Mm-hmm. It's a trust but verify. So you have people who that's their specialty, but you need to be verifying it on your own as an entrepreneur. And the last thing we're supposed to address is where can you go for space or services? So you're in Cedarville.
Yeah, so I'd owned a restaurant and had space and owned the building. So we just kind of have been growing into that. Now, that's not everybody, but there is some lesson you probably learned from that is there is extra space all over the place if you just ask. If you go to the obvious place, to a realtor or someone who just does commercial space, you're going to be paying a premium. And you're gonna have to lock yourself into. So you got to do some like duct tape marketing. Go meet people. Hey, you find that lady who's just here. They're closed on Sundays. Hey, can I rent your kitchen on Sunday? I'll clean the crap out of it for you. And hey, you just found a spot to possibly do some work at. So it's really figuring that out and getting again, I'm also former military, so we would always say Semper Gumby in the Marines, which is always flexible. And so just, don't feel like, oh, I have to do things to look good or look like I'm a real company, and say, no, I have to do things that make sense for me to make money. And there are a lot of opportunities like that to go and bootstrap your business.
The hardest thing, I think, that I've noticed in my journey and fellow entrepreneurs is asking for help and saying, like, I don't know. Saying that you don't know is a perfectly okay response, especially when you're in this industry. There's so many people in this community that are ready to find a solution to whatever your problem is. And when I was looking for warehouse space, because I realized, oh my gosh, the QVC order is 19 pallets. I don't have a warehouse at all. But I went to the local Chamber of Commerce, Dayton Chamber of Commerce. I said, I'm a chamber member. This is my issue. Can you help me? Within 24 hours, there was Rush Logistics. They're like, you can use our warehouse space. Problem solved. Anything else? Guys, I need some help. There's a Facebook page, Entrepreneurs Anonymous. Guys, I need some help. Anybody gonna help me? Boom, people show up. Do not be afraid to ask for help. And like Taylor's saying, nobody cares about the showiness of it. A lot of these businesses are out here doing really well, like they're the most laid back, they're not showy, they don't care. And it's the same thing. You don't need to have a big office. Your home office works just fine. You don't need to have a building. I know some people are like, I need to have my own building. No, you just need a place to make some cupcakes and start making some money. I mean, you need cash flow. That's it. It doesn't take having a building, because if you have a building, guess what else? You have a mortgage lease, you have a lease payment, you have utilities. So think those things through. How can you make money without having to come out of pocket for so much cash? And know that there are people here who have been through it. We're still going through it. COVID caused a lot of us to have to put our startup hat right back on. I feel like I relaunched Mutt Sauce in 2020. But yeah, I mean, ask us. We're an open book. And on that note, any questions? Hey.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for a great and informative conversation so far. My name is Anthony Head, and I'm a local chef and restaurateur looking to try to get some of my products to retail. So I've met with Charlynda over the years, kind of getting ready for that leap. And one of the things I'm finding is trying to really invest in technology. I'm lucky enough to have a little bit of capital to invest in some technology to make that job easier. Did you guys ever deal with a consultant who kind of knows this space? For instance, I want to do lemonades. I want to bottle my lemonades. I'm going to start in the basement of my new restaurant and kind of scale up from there, given some of the considerations you guys given. But are there any other resources that can help me at that smaller space before I make it to the formal manufacturer? For me, it's like you mentioned the filler, the bullet filler you guys used before, and then what was the next step there? And I'm kind of there on my bottling space. I know the laws, regulations, but I want to get
So you
there.
want to use your space to bottle?
Yes, so I understand the regulations there, FDA, all that, but just trying to find the technology to make it a little bit easier for me.
Yeah, so a lot of that, and this is where some experts could help, because if it's like lemonade has a certain acidity, right? All of a sudden you fall under different food packaging requirements. A tactic might be go find someone who wouldn't consider you like a competitor, like someone who bottles beer, and hey, we might start off in cans, right? Or we might, but they might be able to give you a lot of kind of secret sauce. Now, it might be a little bit tailored to the beer industry, but they're going to be less likely to, just blow you off or not give you any info. And then the Ohio Department of Health, FDA, they will help you. Now, there is a maximum of better to ask for forgiveness than for permission. So, obviously, but there's a point to where it might be helpful to ask. And I think I'm really bad at asking for help, and more of I want to figure it out myself. And I may have been able to shortcut some stuff if I would, but I felt like at the time, at least, our stuff was kind of unique. But yeah, I would maybe look at that and see what are other things, because I mean, in the end, it's just like putting Mutt sauce in a bottle, but you just But yeah, there might be some stuff like that, and I know the beer canning industry is popping off, so there might be some micro manufacturing equipment you can get, right, and get into. And it's always finding those Google terms. Once you find it, you're like, oh, okay, now I'm going to look for this because it's some weird terminology. Yeah, that's the best advice I have.
Yeah, I mean, the advice that he gave looks for someone who has a complementary product. There's enough space for everybody. So I'll make that blanket statement that even in a town like Dayton, there's enough room at the table for everyone to eat well, okay? It's a collaborative environment. It should be. My mentor was a salsa company. Her name was Peggy Haim Bellamy, a bit of a bite salsa. And she was assigned to me as a peer mentor by SCORE. And she sat down and she said, you have a tomato-based product. It's not the exact same thing as salsa, but it's tomato-based, so we have the same regulations for feeding people. You don't want them to catch listeria. That's the main concern. Here's the process for making a tomato-based product. So, she just gave me her entire Rolodex because she knew that I'm someone seeking help. Your job, if you've been in the industry long enough, is not to hoard information and just be the only one looking good in your industry. You should share. You're here to help support and grow the local economy. If this is Dayton Strong, that means everybody needs to be doing well, not just you. So I would find someone who has a complementary product and just say, hey, let's go have lunch. Let's talk about this. There's other avenues that you can go about making your product. So if you're not in that situation where you want to make it at home, maybe you want to make it in a commercial kitchen setting. You can start at home. It's the cottage food laws. You can make it in a commercial kitchen. There's one locally, Spark Fairborn, that is open now. They're not taking full-time people, but they will rent out hours. They do have hours available for you to rent. I did learn that yesterday. You can have it co-packaged, so you can find someone who can bottle it for you and do that contract packaging. When you want to do your own manufacturing, that's another level, to own your own manufacturing process. So I call those the scales, pun intended, scales of manufacturing.
So there's another thing I like to do is if I find a packaging that I like, I start looking all over for markings, and then I find the company that makes like the lid. So they don't they don't package it, they just make the lid. So you then fill out their little form or find the guy on LinkedIn, and then you might need to put a Rosie number in there for them to, hey, you might want my business. But then you can use them to say, okay, who are the people that are manufacturing that they're buying from you? And so you kind of go up, one level of the supply chain, and then find that. We kind of did that with our stick packaging machine. We went with them like, oh, hey, where can I get film from? Oh, this is where our customers are currently getting film from. Or you start with then you're at the film guy. Hey, I'm looking for another stick package machine. What are your customers using? Hey, okay, these are some. So you can kind of, find one of those suppliers of one of those, side items, and then start hunting down kind of some micro manufacturing solutions from there.
There's a couple other ways too. I buy my what you would consider competitors. I buy all their products. Took like $200, went on Amazon, brought it because I wanted to see how does it arrive, what kind of box does it arrive in, how did it do. Okay, well let's look at the back. Who made this box? And you, like you said, you find a roundabout way to solve your issue. Any other questions? Anything, logistics, packaging?
No, you go first. All right. So you mentioned throughout the presentation, like SCORE, Dayton Chamber, a couple of other organizations. Are there any other resources, individuals, mentors, any other places or people that you went to in the area to help you along in this process?
Oh man, I feel like I'm a product of Dayton programs. I'm a graduate of Empower, which takes local women in the Dayton area, professionals, and they go through a whole 10-month cohort, but it really is about working on the entrepreneur. Because there was a Gary Vaynerchuk interview I saw. This young man, he said, well, I'm having this issue with this person, and he was talking about this other person. He said, is the issue me? He said, yeah, you're the problem. You're the problem in your whole company. The reason why you're not growing is you. The whole company is stalled because of you. So Empower takes these women, will break you all the way down and build you back up and make sure that you have connections in the local area. I went to Aileron Course for Presidents at Aileron. If you have not been to Aileron in Tip City, it's nice, right?
Yeah, we also love Aileron.
Yes. Aileron is like, I don't even know, it's like Alice in Wonderland for entrepreneurs. You go there to think about big ideas, process improvement, strategy, high-level stuff.
Yeah, and what really helps us out with Aileron is, first of all, never get business advice from somebody you pay, like your accountant or lawyer, because they will just tell you you're doing a great job. Same with family. None of them will give you their honest opinion. You have to find people, and you have to work hard to find people that will call you out on your BS and will tell you that your ideas are dumb. And through Aileron, we have a board of advisors, and we've had some, come to Jesus moments where they're like, "Why are you doing this? You need to stop. You should be doing this instead." And all of a sudden, it's like, "Oh yeah, you're probably right." And it makes a big difference.
Tough love, but productive tough love. A-I-L. There you go. What else is there? There's a logistics association. So Dayton has their own logistics association. It's really great sometimes to go to those meetings to meet some of the folks like Rush Logistics who can provide services for you. You might not need them now, but it's good to know who they are. Going to Spark Fairborn. Some of these people who are in the industry of providing commercial kitchen help, they might, if they can't solve it for you, they know someone who can. So that's what I like.
Is there a cottage good like industry, like trade association?
There's a Facebook group, cottage food group, and you can join them. And they're all working from home. They're all producing products from their home. So there's a Dayton Cottage Food. And any suggestions from the group that we can share? I mean, this is a collaborative environment. Hey.
Well, I just wanted to add that there's a company in Columbus, Ohio called Zinc that is a distributor of equipment, kitchen equipment, and you can actually contact them. They have a Dayton rep, and they will bring the equipment free of charge for you to test and use on your product. And it's solely because they distribute the manufactured brand of that equipment. So they want people to be able to test and R&D the products for free. So all kinds. Like, I can't even, I like them because they have Vitamix, and it's a Cleveland-based company, so I want people using Vitamix, but they have everything from heating, cooling, filling, packaging. It's all food-based equipment. So, but my question is, so, you know, sometimes with the product infancy, the start of the product, a lot of times these products start off as family-owned recipes or an idea that came out of someone's head, right? And they've socialized it with their family members, their friends. But what truly gives you the confidence or the feedback to know, like, I'm gonna take this product and package and sell this? Because for like Mutt sauce, you can't taste that on Amazon. So you have to learn so much about the product and what people like about it to even get yourself in the confidence to sell it that way.
Well, I think part of it is taking the leap even when you're afraid. There's a lot of just executing while scared. And you don't, okay, I'm gonna leave you with this too. You don't have to feel qualified to be qualified, okay? I want you to really internalize that, whatever your industry is. The vision that you have for Third Wave, Mutt sauce, whatever you are bringing to the table, you are the one who is gifted to do it. There's no one else who has this vision but you. Sometimes you may think you're crazy, but I tell people, if it's a crazy idea, you're on to something. To answer your question, Teresa, I think it was the encouragement of my family. It really started with a conversation that I had with them. And for any entrepreneur, you're thinking about turning this into a business, communication with anyone who's going to be affected by your journey as an entrepreneur needs to happen. Very frank and upfront. I don't subscribe to balance. There's going to be times where I have to put my attention on X, Y, or Z, and it is not my family. And they need to know that. Because expectation management is usually where the hiccup is with broken relationships on the journey of entrepreneurship. You did not communicate with them what's about to happen. You did not communicate to them that you're gonna have to put your focus. There's gonna be some long nights. There's gonna be piles of paperwork. The office is gonna look like a tornado sometimes. But I am doing this for our family. I will make sure to make time, equal amount of time for the family or anyone that you're connected to. It could be your spouse, anybody. I had a hard conversation with my family. I said, I don't know the answers. I don't know if this is going to do well. I don't know if anybody outside of our family will even like this. But if you have my back, then I feel very confident to go after this. If they, you're not trying to please everybody. It's 80-20. 20%, they're going to be like, this sucks. I hate it. I don't like this taste. It's too tomatoey. It's too mustardy. Or something. I was like, there's 25 ingredients. There's something that they're not gonna like. But you have to cater to that 80% that are like die hard. I tried this at the Beaver Creek Popcorn Festival, or I caught you at your Honda on Ludlow, and I love it. Thank you. Thank you for doing what you did. So, yeah, the people in your inner circle, have them have your back, and be afraid and do it anyway.
And you're going to fail. I'll end on this. You're going to fail. I have had more businesses fail than have succeeded by 5x, and so is Charles. But the key is to fail early and fail cheaply. And if you can go out there and figure out how to fail and then come up with something else, and then come up with something else, and keep using that, and because that's really the grind. It's not necessarily being boneheaded and driving yourself and your family into the ground in the poorhouse on one bad idea. It's about you improving, you learning stuff, and this doesn't work, this next thing. So the reason Third Wave Water was successful is Charles and I had met, and we had multiple unsuccessful businesses. And when we started talking and coming up with the idea, we end up making more good decisions than bad decisions. And that sometimes decisions that you made years ago will determine the fate of your company, tomorrow or a year from now. And that stinks, but that's just what it is. So it's figuring that out and just doing stuff and making things. And not getting too worked up about, the end result.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
A couple of questions. Oh, okay. I was trying not to use the mic, but it's okay. Oh, there's people up there. Okay. Hi, my name is Charmaine, by the way, and I'm the owner and CEO of Tinker's Treats. And so I know that you all talked about like getting different types of mentors. Did you ever have a mentor that was like in a different part of the country, but that was in the same industry? Or was that something that you avoided because you knew you wanted to eventually be nationwide?
There are plenty of mentors, and I think if you're upfront with them in the beginning about what your goal is, and if they're okay with it, then that's okay. Yeah, and you don't want that many mentors. Our board of advisors, we have like 3 people, and really figuring that out. But I would worry less about stepping on anyone's toes, because if they're the right type of person and they're willing to give you information, regardless of what your goals are, if they're okay with it and you're okay with it, go right ahead.
And mentorship is different from advisement in my eyes. Advisement is like, hey, I need to know how to do X, Y, or Z. Okay, here you go. Mentorship is an investment of time. And they're really trying to cultivate and help you grow personally and professionally. So I have advisors, but I have very few mentors. And I'm not concerned about their industry so much as I'm concerned about what they're willing to exchange in terms of value. My first mentor from SCORE, they're considered mentors, but he's now my board of advisors. He was about the same age as my grandfather. My grandfather passed away. He's never seen Mutt sauce. He passed away 8 years before Mutt sauce even became a company. So to have someone his age who said, I know that you're trying to grow this, at the same time, you're kind of grieving the loss of your grandfather because you really wanted to ask him, like, what do I do? So he stepped up to say, this is not just a business thing, like I'm here to really help you as a person grow through this journey. He's still there. I just took my new son, he's 1, and I was so happy that he was one of the first people post-COVID to meet him. The other mentor I count is Damon John. And Damon John I met through the Bob Evans contest in 2017. But the reason why I consider him a mentor and not just an advisor is because when I first met him, he said, I know what it's like to be raised by a single mother, and I know what it's like to not have anything. And I read that about you. So I'm gonna meet you where you are, and I'm gonna advise you differently than I am anybody else. He gave me the story about how he blew through $1 million, like quickly. And he did not want the same fate for me. He said, you probably have never even seen this much money, have you? I'm like, nope. He said, well, let me tell you what you're gonna do with it. He said, you're going to put it into anything that will give you a return. Do you have any consultants? Yes, fire them. Why? Because you have me. But on top of that, you need to look at anybody that you're sowing your hard-earned money into. You need to see where it's coming back. And if you can't clearly see that, then you need to make a hard decision. Then you need to cut some ties. This is a hard growth strategy. So it was painful. It was really painful because I'd been with some of these people on my team for a while, and I was cutting ties with them just out of the blue. It seemed like out of the blue. And but I appreciate that. I appreciate him meeting me where I was at versus just saying, hey, you need a $5,000 website and you need a,
Yeah, there are a lot of people that would love to have your money, and you have to fight because in the end, I've had lots of businesses where other people made so much more money off of my business than me, and that sucks, and you don't want that. You don't want that to happen.
but we believe in you, right? And this is a very collaborative, supportive community. If there's any other questions, just come see us, and you can go to Charlynda at muttsauce.com,
Taylor at thirdwavewater.com.
and we're an open book.
All right, thanks so much. Let's give him a round of applause.